is it?
You're locked into the Flagship, an Ole Miss podcast powered by College Corner.
Here we go.
1, 2, 3.
Get your daily Rebel sports fix at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com.
Welcome into the Week 10 edition of Hit That Line. I'm your host, Zach Berry, coming to you from the College Corner studio. College Corner, 3 locations, Oxford, Ridgeland, Flowood. Check them out, collegecornerstore.com. Get you some of the Galaxy Realtree gear at College Corner. 3 locations. The brand new one in Oxford's real nice. If you're going to get to town early before Georgia next weekend, swing by College Corner on Sisk Avenue and snag you some merch. Show is also brought to you by our good buddy Drew Moak and USA Benefits Group. It's Medicare enrollment season. And if you're looking for, either a Medicare supplement plan or just a regular health insurance plan, call Drew 601-953-8449, or you can visit his website, quoteswithdrew.com, and get your free quote. He's been working around the clock to ensure his clients are in the best plans for them. Show also brought to you by our good friends at Rowback, rowback.com. Use promo code JUICE for 20% off when you purchase anything from Rowback, rowback.com. They will have Ole Miss polos in stock next football season. So go ahead and give them a test run. Check out the polos, see what you like, see what you don't like, make some adjustments, and be ready for when the Ole Miss swag drops next season. And, of course, the title sponsor of this show, Homefield Apparel, homefieldapparel.com, new coaches jackets, campus pullover, VIP boxes, all of that and more with Homefield Apparel. You can get that slick corduroy rope hat that I've been wearing on some of the shows. You can get a hoodie, long sleeve tee, short sleeve tee. You get a really nice koozie. All of that comes in the VIP box. And you get an executive pass that gets you discounts on further purchases. But if you don't want to get the VIP box, we still got you covered. Use promo code LASTDANCE24 and you get 15% off your first purchase. All right, let's go ahead and get the legal gambling counsel in here as we have got a full house. Ben, Nick, and Austin. Gentlemen, welcome to Week 10.
What's up?
That's depressing.
Yeah, that is depressing, actually.
How many weeks are in this?
Okay,
regular season week?
Hold on.
14.
You say it's depressing. We are in double-digit weeks now, but the college football playoff championship game is not until January 20th. So we pretty much have, 2.5 months left of football?
Nearly 3 months.
Yeah, nearly 3 months, which is insane. So
It's 15 weeks. There's a week 0.
Not all bad.
Yeah, 15. There's 16 if you count championship week, 17 if you count Army Navy.
Speaking of not all bad, the fellas last week, 18-5 against the spread. Money lines didn't hit, but 18-5 against the spread is strong.
If you took just money lines, you'd have been up 8.5 units last week. Now
we ought to charge for this podcast.
Yeah, it was crazy how good we were money line on the spreads. You should definitely not. Let me rephrase. You'd have been up, 8.5. That's right. Don't take our money lines though. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get out in front of this before Nick opens his fucking mouth. You were right about Navy. All right, it's over. Moving on.
Oh my God.
Did you take? Oh my dude. I mean, come on. If a service academy is against a better team, like a lot better team, just take the better team.
I wasn't certain they were the better team, Nick, or I wouldn't have fucking taken Navy.
Well, I mean,
let's not act like Notre Dame is some juggernaut.
Okay, I'm not Catholic. Okay, you won't see me with ash on my forehead on Ash Wednesday, but Navy's a lot better than we give them credit for, just based on the NIU game. They're a pretty good team. We don't give Alabama, much flack for losing to Vanderbilt. Like, good teams drop bad games.
Now,
and that was a bad game. but they're pretty doggone good. That defense is very good.
Well, I was going to say that was the matchup. It was a bad matchup. If Notre Dame could stop the option at all, it was over. Because as we saw today, per College Football Matrix Analytics, Notre Dame is one of 5 teams in the country. Let me go ahead and pull this up because this stat is wild. 5 defenses in the country that are currently with a year-to-date defense scoring efficiency factor that's better than the average defense scoring efficiency of the last 15 national champions.
That's
Notre
pretty
Dame,
wild.
I mean, that's a lot of qualifiers, but still insane. Notre Dame, Tennessee, Ohio State, Texas, and Ole Miss.
It's really not that many. I mean, it just pretty much says there's 5 teams in the country right now that have a better defense than most teams who win the national championship in the last 15 years.
Are we? We're the only 2. Are we the only 2-loss team on the list?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Notre Dame. Who else?
Tennessee has 1. Ohio State is undefeated.
1. No, 1. Oregon.
Oh, that's right. God, that game feels like it was a month ago.
I know.
Texas has 1. And yep.
Yeah,
I mean, look.
None to Kentucky.
Hopefully this isn't the season of what ifs because, look, the Rebs can still handle business and when the dust settles, see what happens. But SP Plus, which just so everyone knows, because I've had to remind everyone 800 times in the last month, it is opponent adjusted. So, yes, Ole Miss played 4 shitty teams to start the season, but these are opponent adjusted metrics. Number 3 in the country, number 7 offense in the country. I mean, this is literally a season that could potentially come down to 2 plays.
Yeah. And as for the defensive adjusted numbers against those shitty teams, we still only gave up 1 touchdown. Is that right? In those 4 games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Halfback pass
No,
against Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern.
And,
yeah.
you know,
Right.
for all the people that say, well, you can do that for every team. Well, this is an Ole Miss podcast, so we're going to fucking talk about it. But, I mean, it's the 4th and 7 to Barry and Brown, who we were just talking about before we hit record, probably should be playing for Ole Miss. And then you have the scramble drill. Centurion Perkins just misses Garrett Nussmeier, gets the first down, ends up making a hell of a throw to tie it up and then overtime. But
Zach, why are you making me cry?
Well, I'm sorry. Look, hey, things are about to be looking up because the Rebs are heading to Fayetteville this weekend.
We're on
and okay.
We're on to Arkansas.
I got burned last week. Ole Miss didn't cover. Now, by God, if they had played offense the entire game like they did in the second half, they probably do cover. But I feel like I'm going to go to the well again here because I do think it's a good matchup for Ole Miss because Taylon Green, as athletic and creative as he is, not a super efficient passer, and Ole Miss creates a ton of pressure. And I think that an Arkansas defense that is 13th in the conference in pass defense can have some issues against a team like Ole Miss that has weapons. And Jackson Dart looked really good last week. Kiffin was kind of doing some things of old, getting creative, using the tight ends. I don't know. I think
who's 14th in the SEC, by the way, in offensive or in passing defense? Do you know? I'm curious. I don't know. Look it up, and I'll say.
I gotta guess.
If it's not state, you're right. If it's not state,
it's not Ole Miss.
No. And while you're looking it up, I'll just say this: after kind of going back and thinking about last week's game, they changed offensive coordinators. Obviously midweek. So essentially, we had no film on their new OC. It took us 1 half to figure out what they were doing. So they were rolling. They were running him a lot, and then they did nothing in the second half.
It did nothing.
The second half. I was going to say, more importantly, they went back to their really good quarterback. I mean, had they stuck with Arnold all year, I think they would be in a better position than they're in right now. I think they pulled the plug on him way too early. He's good.
Yeah. He's good.
Yeah. So, Nick, I efforted last dead DFL in the SEC in pass defense is Mississippi State.
Okay. The reason
LSU
I asked
is
that.
15th.
Say it again.
LSU is 15th. A&M is 14th.
That was going to kill my narrative. I was going to say we do well against teams that are bad because I thought South Carolina's secondary wasn't very good, and we kind of did pretty well against it. But then when you add an LSU, it really just torpedoed the narrative. So I yield my time.
Well, it's not like we were poor against LSU.
Right.
It was
No, but sure.
we dropped passes against LSU. We left our plan against LSU. Like they're
Right.
We didn't throw to the tight end against LSU.
Yeah.
clearly the coaches either listen to podcasts or read message boards because we came out in what do they call that? 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, and
we're doing it again this Saturday.
We ran too tight before we started Juice Wells. Like that blows my. I mean, our tight ends are good, but like we're out there with Watkins and Lee and 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
And you know what it tells me is we're trying everything. If we're coming out lined up like that, we're trying everything.
I would like to think that the coaches were being responsive to fans calling out the obvious.
Yeah, I'm being
I'd like to think that.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is that Trey Harris wasn't available, and so they were just like,
Sure.
"If it, we gotta do
100%
something."
what it was.
Yeah.
That's the real answer. They don't read message boards, but
They
they
need
do.
to.
But that is
They do.
I'm being funny.
Some of them.
I'm not here. I don't know why we don't throw it to Priest Coordinator 10 times a game. He seems to always get himself open, and very rarely does he drop the ball.
Mhm.
And while he's not a big play threat, we did complete a 30-yard pass for a touchdown too. I don't know how far that
Mhm.
was on Saturday. It felt like it was about 30-ish, edge of the red zone type stuff. And I don't know. I would throw to the tight ends like we're doing. Use that as the run play. Here's where we suck is we can't run the football. And they didn't really give Bentley a lot of tries against
5 carries.
Oklahoma. And maybe Oklahoma is just really good against the run. I don't know. But like eventually somebody's not going to be good against the run. I mean, everybody can't be great against the run. We've got to be able to establish against someone, you would think.
Oklahoma's 6th against the run. I'll tell you what.
What is Arkansas?
Against the run?
Yeah.
10th.
Okay.
Here's my issue. And look, this is just a podcaster who's the guy that watches a lot of college football. But I think we talked about last week, talked about the week before. I mean, Ole Miss has got to get creative and do some innovative shit with the run game, because this run up to the line after a big play, hey, guess what's coming? It's inside zone, because that's all Kiffin has done the last 5 years at Ole Miss. You got to do something different.
I think that's just the hurry up offense play. Everybody does it.
Yes.
And it's the veer and shoot. It's the Baylor stuff. You count the guys in the box, and you got to win your one-on-ones. But I mean, damn, like,
And then you lose a yard.
yeah,
That's the play.
I mean, the one-on-one stuff isn't working because, look, if you have numbers, great, but you still got to block. So,
And don't look now, but this is 2 weeks. Go ahead, Zach. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you got to try something different. And
So this is 2 weeks in a row, too, talking about losing a yard or whatever. Another way that we get stalled is the fake injuries. And this is 2 weeks now where we haven't. I think we may have faked one last week with Ivy, maybe.
that's not fake. Him and Pegues are playing hurt.
They're pretty banged up.
But like when we play, or like Oklahoma and LSU, they're going down on purpose against us. Like there's no question. I didn't listen to the announcers last week. I'm sure they didn't say a word about it.
Yeah. Well, last week people were, doing the whole, and I was like, look, man, I got a pretty good source on Jared Ivey's situation, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. And then Pegues, I mean, his shoulder, he did something to it early in the year, and he's just been playing hurt because he's just
an AC sprain, isn't it?
Yeah, something. But
that's just what I've heard, I think.
Kiffin's gotten a little crafty with waiting to sub late and then just letting them jog out and take their time. One thing that I noticed last week as well, and when I had Michael Felder on the show this week, if you haven't checked that out, you should do it. He pretty much goes into a deep dive into the Ole Miss offense and what he would like for them to do, and he's a junkie, so he's good at that kind of stuff. But Ole Miss waiting to break the huddle when it's right at 14 seconds on the play clock, I mean, that's 4D chess right there. So, I mean, if you don't know, the helmet comms turn off at 15 seconds. So, like, the defensive coaches can't radio in to the linebacker, whoever has the green dot. Hey, this is what they're in. This is what we got to do. Look at this, key on this. Like, so that's been pretty heady there. But talking about the run game, man, like, I just want to see. They tried to do some things with Juice in the backfield last week, but it was on 4th and, like, why are you running reverse?
That was cute, man. Like, either run the ball at the middle or throw the ball. Like a reverse on 4th and 1. That's Vanderbilt. No, it's not even Vanderbilt. It may be now, but that's bottom of the league shit. You just don't do that.
I'm waiting. I mean, dude, the play they ran in the Peach Bowl, dart rolls right, and then you throw back across the field, Prieskorn just leaking out. I mean, that play right there, I swear to God, every time somebody runs that, it's open 9 out of 10 times. I don't know. I want to see some more creativity. It was better in the second half. I mean, I've been telling people the fake bubble seam to Prieskorn, that's the best ball I've ever seen.
That's nice.
Bro.
Yeah.
I don't know. I do think it's a good matchup for Ole Miss. And look, at this point, outside of Georgia, and maybe we'll see what it looks like next week, Ole Miss's defense kind of makes it a good matchup for them every week because the defense is so damn good. But
here's the reality is we were going to have to win these games anyway, right? And we're going to be favored in them anyway. So, like, this isn't to belittle your point, Zach, because it's a good one. Every game is, frankly, a good matchup for us on defense because our defensive line is better than everybody else's O-line. I think that's probably including Georgia. They're not great on offense. And then, but we were always going to have to win these games. Now, we weren't going to always have to beat Georgia.
Yeah. You're always banking on that not being a must-win.
I want to interject here and say that irrespective of the Kentucky game, bad loss, obviously. And I said this before the season, and I kind of think it might even ring truer now that we've seen how many 1 and 2 loss teams are going to be at the end of the season. I think if we had lost to LSU, that we had to beat Kentucky. I mean, that we had to beat Georgia no matter what, because I think we could have, let's say it had played out like this. Let's say our best wins on the whole season were Florida, South Carolina, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Like, I don't think we could have lost to the 2 decent teams we played and gone to the playoff. I kind of think that losing to LSU was, let's just say it was going to happen either way. I think if you'd rather have a loss, you'd rather it be to Kentucky than to Georgia. I don't know that looking at the end of the season with A&M and LSU and Bama and Georgia and whoever else I'm missing, Texas in there, I don't know that we could have had a 10-2 season with no ranked wins and gone to the playoff. I feel like we'd look like Mizzou at the end of the year because Mizzou's, heck, they could go 10-2 still and have literally nothing on their schedule. So, I mean, in hindsight, it's like the Kentucky loss was a big deal, but I don't know that 10-2 with our best win being over Arkansas would get us to the playoff. I really don't think so.
I agree with most of that, except I would just push back on the Mizzou point specifically in that their losses are
too far.
Yeah, Mizzou is an outlier because their losses were not competitive. They got blown.
No, that was a bridge too far. But I still think the point holds that, like, we've had 0 ranked wins. Our best win would be over an Oklahoma team that had just fired their OC, or a South Carolina team that is not very great. We would have not even like a mediocre win. We would have a bunch of like bad-ish teams that we beat.
Here's my question for y'all. And maybe this is stupid, but I've always thought, because I remember a couple years ago, Kentucky, when Ole Miss won, got the strip, sack, ended the game, that Kentucky team was what, top 10 at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So
I
everybody at the
think
end of the
they were
year,
number 7.
Yeah, 7. Yeah.
yeah, everybody at the end of the year was like, well, it turns out Kentucky wasn't very good. So, like, I've always said, you can only play the team in front of you at the time that team is in front of you. Now, sure, I get it. Like, turns out they weren't very good. But, like, I kind of feel like it's kind of dumb that a team gets punished for, at the time, this team, because at the time Ole Miss lost to Kentucky, they had just taken Georgia to the wire. And I don't know, maybe that's dumb. Maybe that doesn't make any sense, but you can't
You
really.
still just don't lose to Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean that's the rule. The
I guess
the lesson here. But like you can only play them at that time when they're ranked.
No, I get
whatever.
that.
I think that, yeah, you're right. I think that Nick's, the counter to your point is that if you're going, or I guess in your hypothetical, you are going 10-2 and you're picking which two of your 2 losses there are, or like comparing losses. And you're saying that if you lose to the only 2 ranked or good teams on your schedule and beat the teams you're supposed to, similar to what Kiffin has done, frankly, since he got to Ole Miss, is win the games he was supposed to and lose the games that we weren't favored in, that may not be good enough for the playoff.
Well, I mean,
my thought on that is, and I'll bring this home. My thought on that is in your hypothetical, well, I guess in a world where Ole Miss beats Kentucky, Ole Miss beats Georgia, I would hope that we wouldn't go 10-2, period. Like,
sure.
I would say that in your hypothetical, we only lose on the road to LSU. Like the 2 losable games are LSU and Georgia. And rather than losing both of them, you lose one of them and you go 11-1. Right. But I guess in a scenario where you have to lose 2, I would rather lose at Florida. Well, that's a really late loss. I don't know.
Sure.
Maybe you do want to lose.
Late.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's early. I think you look around the league and like, let's look at, I guess my point is less about who our 2 losses are to and who one of our wins must be over a really good team. So let's look at Bama, for example.
It's the same way of saying it. I'm with you.
Bama at the end of the year is going to have a loss to Vanderbilt, right? And look, Vanderbilt's played Texas pretty well, and they're not a bad team. It's still Vanderbilt. Tennessee's going to have a loss to Arkansas, right? What's Tennessee got? They got to win over Bama. What's Bama got? They're going to have a win if they make the playoff. They'll have a win over LSU and a win over Georgia. I think you're pointing around the league. Everyone's kind of got a bad loss or a mediocre loss. We would have needed, and obviously we're going to get it if we get to 10-2. We would have needed to have beaten a team in the discussion. You don't want to be the team. I don't know. It's like musical chairs. You don't want to be the guy without the chair. You don't want to be looking around the league at the end of the year, the team without the top 25 win. And Georgia's got 1, and Texas got 1, A&M's got 1, LSU's got 1, Bama's got 1, and we've got 0. And fortunately, we're going to have 1 if we beat Georgia. I mean, hell, look at Georgia's lost a game, and they're back at number 2, all because of they got to win.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to your point, Ben, about the timing, Ole Miss has to win out anyway. So in this scenario, if we're talking about can Ole Miss get in, we're only having that conversation if it's 10-2. I think the timing of a November 9th win over a top 10 Georgia is potentially loud enough to keep you in there in the top 12.
Oh, yeah, top 2 Georgia. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like second.
That's regardless of, well, it's Georgia and that's their second law. It doesn't matter. It's still a top 2 Georgia. So
it also matters that what they did to Texas on TV and what they're going to do to Tennessee on TV at home is going to be like what they did to us last year, right? They're gonna.
You think they're whipping Tennessee?
Yeah, at home. Yeah, it's their biggest home. It's their only home. I'm sure it'll be at night. It's their only home big game like that. Yeah, they will.
What's that like?
Who could say? I don't know.
Yeah. I don't even know if our lights work.
They're just going to
We
take them
didn't
down.
even have lights until 1990, and I guess for good reason. Or 89,
right,
whatever.
yeah. We get rid of them now, sell them off, and put them on NIL.
Just become Wrigley Field.
Yeah. To get back on the Ole Miss game here this weekend, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and lock in the under 53 and a half.
That seems like the lock.
I was thinking about taking the points, but just the total is, I think the average like total you see throughout the year is 56. So what they're telling me is this game is just barely below an average college football game offensively. I don't see that at all.
I'm going to be annoyed if it goes over, because that means our defense did not play well.
Correct. I just don't see, and we're not scoring like 35 or something. And
So
that would
doing the math,
if it goes over 53 and a half, we had 15-yard penalties, which is possible.
So doing the math with the total and the spread, what kind of game is Vegas expecting here?
7 point number 53 and a half. So
31-24.
Yeah.
30-23.
30-23.
So
I don't know that we get to 30, do we?
I don't think we're scoring 30 again this year until the
year.
That was my thought process with all week. I was like, this is going to be tight. Ole Miss wins, but Arkansas covers. Looking at some of the metrics with Taylor Green, he throws for a lot of yards, but he's not very efficient. He's not super accurate. I think that it's 27, 27-17. Arkansas has to drive down, and he throws a pick at the end, and Ole Miss covers like that and, wins by 10. But then, maybe Arkansas just gets a garbage touchdown at the end and still covers. But I don't know. I just think it seems like the book on Arkansas is just, you got to keep him contained and force him to throw. And that's when he gets into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So
you can't let him run around everywhere.
I haven't, other than maybe the LSU, that last drive against us, I think we're a good second half defensive team. I don't know that if the game goes over, I think it's because they scored on us early. And I don't think that we're giving up. This is not me being argumentative with you, Zach. I just don't think garbage touchdowns are in it for the other team this year. I mean, our defense, it seems like once we hit the mid fourth quarter, again, LSU's the outlier. I mean, even Kentucky, if I recall, was like they had the 60-yard fourth, and then the penalty. I mean, there's just a couple outliers there. I assume that could happen with Arkansas. It's unlikely that we give up 3 major fourth down conversions to lose 3 SEC games, but whatever. I think it goes under 2. I think Ole Miss covers the spread, and I think that the game's I think it's a snoozer. I think it's 20-10.
I think it's going to be boring.
We're a boring watch right now. I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm just saying we play steel curtain football right now, and it's New York Jet football, 23-10 reps.
And I'm fine with that style of play
Me
as long
too.
as long as we're winning
Me too.
games.
I don't
I'm
care.
cool with that.
Alabama did
Ole Miss,
25 years. Yeah.
Ole Miss is looking like a 2021 Kirk Ferentz Iowa team right now.
Yeah.
But who cares?
I would point out one thing, though, one issue I've got with it. If you can't half-ass it, you got to whole-ass that shit. Where when it's 4th and 1 in their red zone, kick the field goal. Don't run the reverse the juice.
Take the points.
You can't be like half in this analytics world. Hurry up offense.
We don't have to outscore people anymore.
And then exactly, kick the field goal, take the points, and let's win the grinder of a game.
Mm-hmm.
So I still feel like Kiffin is kind of, we're straddling the line rather than being.
He's reluctantly flipping.
Yeah.
I think
Again, we're critiquing our coaching staff and our approach after a win against Oklahoma. Like that's a good spot to be in. I'd rather
Right.
be, bitching after a win than after a loss. So again, I'm fine with grinding it out, but if we're going to do that, let's commit to the bit.
Yeah.
I think maybe this is dumb, but I think on the road, Kiffin is taking the points.
That's probably right. Yeah.
Right now he seems to be, I agree with that. He seems to be a feel of the game person, which is so unlike him. I mean, in that, like, take the LSU, like he hurries up to run up the middle with Parrish, but on the 50-yard line, he puts in Pegues. That doesn't make sense to me. I think I agree with you, Zach. I think that we should take the points on the road, especially against Arkansas. I mean, get to 20 and make them score 21. Get to 30 and make them score 31. Like that's going to be hard to do on our defense. 4 touchdowns on our defense. Have we given up 4 touchdowns in SEC play yet?
No.
Only giving up 1 rushing touchdown.
And Arkansas was out there starting running back, right?
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've given up 1 rushing touchdown this year.
Mm-hmm.
We gave up how many touchdowns to Oklahoma?
2.
2.
Both in the first half. 3
Tight
LSU, 2.
Tied in on the goal line in the scramble drill at the corner at the pylon at the end of the first half.
And that's one where the kid just made a play. Like Arnold just made a play. Princely had him sacked. He got loose.
It was a good play. Yeah. And every touchdown that's been made against us, other than the Kyron Lacey push off in the LSU overtime, has been stressful for the other team. Like they have to really stress to just get first downs against us.
We talked about that on this show with the 2 losses. Like a lot had to go right for the other team. A lot, including, penalties with, horse collars or, face masks that are just, they're just trying to make the tackle and it's just a graze, whatever. You've had, targeting overturned, a strip sack fumble that's overturned. I mean, tons of stuff.
Let's talk about that for a second. There was, and this may be the same play you're talking about. It's LSU, strip sack, whatever. If you're hitting a quarterback, okay, let's just throw a hypothetical out. And his arm's going forward, okay? But when he like a forward throwing motion, not necessarily towards the line of scrimmage, but he's making like the quarterback throw, right? But the ball, when he releases it,
becomes a lateral
backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Let's say he goes back. Like if you were to catch a snap and throw a screen out to the receiver on the left, but you threw that ball backwards and the receiver dropped it, that's a fumble, correct?
Yeah.
How is that different if a guy is getting hit and when he releases the forward throwing motion, the ball goes backwards? That's exactly what Nussmeier did in the LSU game.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, the announcer's like, his arm's going for it. That's an incomplete pass. The whole time I'm like, I get the ball. I get the concept of the arm going forward. But if the ball goes back, and it wasn't batted backwards, like he literally got spun around and threw it backwards, that should be a fumble.
Yeah, I thought in real time it looked like it was stripped before the arm. Instant replay, super slow-mo, it's really close. But again, on the field, it was called a fumble.
But even if it wasn't stripped, even if it was a throwing motion, the ball went backwards. How was that not a fumble?
Landed backwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're saying that he's throwing, okay, he's throwing, but it went backwards.
Let's just assume it wasn't a strip. Maybe it was, but let's assume it wasn't. Let's assume he was holding on to the ball. If I take a snap and I turn around and throw that ball back to the end zone behind me, that is a fumble.
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe I don't know the rules. Like, I would love for somebody to comment and be like, no, if it's unintentionally thrown backwards, like you got to have it kind of like unintentional targeting. Whatever. I guess, it all becomes intent when you get in tight. You got to have mens rea Tiger stuff.
Yeah. All this to say, the two losses that like people, have been doing, they're like, well, hey, we got duped. This Ole Miss team isn't very good. Well, it's like, okay, the two losses, it wasn't like you got boat raced. I mean, they were both 3 one-score games, and
boat race. We had 98% chance of winning both of them with like 3 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah, it's obviously they still count as losses, but I mean, pump the brakes on a team just sucking all of a sudden because you lose in overtime in Baton Rouge, and then you lose by 3 at home to Kentucky in early October, whatever.
And here's the thing. I don't think that if they get to you're down to picking the last 2 teams for the college football playoff, and you've got 10-2 Ole Miss with a win over Georgia, I think it's really 10-1 Ole Miss, because I don't know how much that LSU loss is going to go against you with it being in overtime on the road.
Right. Exactly.
That sort of thing. Now the Kentucky loss is going against
overtime helps a lot. It really does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 10 even if you call it 10-1.5, it goes, you knock it back half a point. I don't know. I think we'll be fine. I mean, LSU and Alabama are going to knock themselves out. They'll each have one of them will have a third loss now after that game, so they're out. One of those, but then you still have to deal with A&M, Texas, Georgia. Of course, you could get the head-to-head against them, and Tennessee. Ideally, Georgia or Tennessee would get a third loss. Really, if Ole Miss could beat Georgia and then Tennessee beat Georgia, then Georgia's knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
These teams are going to lose though. There's too many games left. We can get into picking now. My pick was Ole Miss lay-in 6.5. Are we 6.5?
7, I see.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a 6.5 out there.
Dang, 7.
Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, it's all FanDuel's got 6.
Well, that's 124. We can't do that.
Oh.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll lay 7 then. That's fine. I'm not locking it in. Under 53.5 is a good pick. I may have to ride with Nick on that, but I haven't decided yet.
It's a great pick, honestly.
It is.
And all seriousness, jokes aside, I don't see how it gets to that number. I can't foresee a way. We have not scored that many points all season long in SEC play. I don't know why we would start in the rain at 11 a.m.
I would love to miss it with the fact that we win 41-17. I would love that. But even 41-17 barely goes over, and that feels like a huge score for us right now.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
I think it's going to be ugly as shit. I think it's like 26-20 Rebs.
Oh, yeah. Nobody can fart away an easy win like the Rebels.
I really kind of think 17-13. I really think it's going to be 26-20 is going to flatter us, dude. I mean, look at it.
This is an NFL or a AFC North game.
Yeah.
In the rain at 11 a.m. The get-in price right now is $22. It is going to be sleepy. It is not going to be.
Are you
full.
going?
I've got 2 extra tickets. I can't pay somebody to get rid of.
You're not going there?
No, I've got 2. I've got 4 total. I got 2 extra with me, and we just might have a lot of space in my seats. I mean, it's going to be sleepy. I don't think that offense is very good, and I think we are packing it in as quick as possible to get home, to get back and play Georgia.
Hey,
is Trey Harris going to play?
He's probable. I was told that he will give it a go, and if it doesn't feel close to 100%, that he will wait until Georgia.
I think he's a break in case of emergency kind of guy. He's up there. His jersey's nearby. I
don't think Ole Miss needs him to win, and they would prefer to keep him on the shelf until next week.
Yeah, probably so. Also, what do you think?
Can we win without him?
no
Yeah.
inside information or anything like that, but like, are you really going to test a groin, which is allegedly the injury in the rain on the road at Arkansas?
Yeah, it's
That's the-
66 degrees.
I mean, is
Yeah,
it
that's
is it like a 90% chance of rain? What are we talking about here?
I'm gonna say 80%, but yeah, it's not gonna be heavy from my understanding. It's gonna be just like your classic. You're in Fayetteville, it doesn't stop raining. You're kind of cold.
It only rains on our sideline for most of the game.
Yeah, it only rained on our sideline up there 14. That's not
Rain is
it-
40% at kickoff,
I'm seeing 70%.
not at kickoff. At 4 p.m. it's 60%. Now we could be on different apps, but
Now,
um,
rain showers in the morning becoming a steady light rain. Ultimately, I mean, fortunately, they do play on a turf field, but
do you see
yeah.
that humidity at 7 a.m. 100% in Fayetteville?
Oof.
Hell yeah,
This is
brother.
rain.
All right.
Cue the awful memes and gifs on Twitter this Saturday. GIFs.
All right, we're gonna jump into some picks here.
Yeah, man, I've got a bunch. I've got mine already. Oh, whenever y'all want, I've got them.
I'm gonna jump up here quick and snag Memphis -7 over UTSA. Yeah, I can only get 7. Memphis had an ugly win last week. Still 7-1. So still something to play for. And the Roadrunners are just garbage.
Yeah, aren't they kind of terrible?
3-5, 12th in the American. It'll be at the Alamo Dome, but I think Memphis is good enough. I think the quarterback's better. It's only 7, so give me Memphis. I think they'll be ready to get that taste out of their mouth after eking out a win last week.
Yeah, just for the record, they're 3-5, but their 3 wins are Kennesaw, one of the worst teams in college football, Houston Christian, and FAU.
Yeah,
and they had one of the ugliest losses you will see last week. They were up like 42-17 at halftime and lost. Like they were up by like multiple scores at half and ended up losing the game outright. Jeff Traylor's window may have closed there. I think he's a really good coach, but he should have gotten out when Frank Harris left.
Yeah, that was his special sauce down there. I'm also going to go ahead and jump in with a first money line of the show. Somebody knows something, and I'm kind of with them here. I don't know what the something is, but I kind of vibe with it. The odds aren't great, but I still feel good about it. I'm taking South Carolina money line.
Oh,
What's the money line?
Plus 110.
well,
That's
let's stay
crazy.
here. What number can you give me there? Can I get a 3 on the Gamecocks?
Stand by.
2.5.
You
You
can
get a 2.5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
2.5.
2.5 across the board. I think night
At 2.5,
game
you better take money line.
at the Claw. Dude, that place is going to be. I mean, as Ryan Nanny would say, they're going to be on the ceiling, brother. I mean,
I think they're better than A&M.
Yeah, I think
dude,
they might be.
they have quietly gotten better each week. And
Look, they deserve to beat Alabama. They should have beaten Alabama, and they should have beaten LSU.
Should have beaten
They
LSU.
should have beaten
And LSU.
Should be 6-1 right now.
Yeah.
That front seven is nasty. I mean, their pressure rate is up there with Ole Miss and Boise. I like them to get after Marcel Reed. And look, if you
They're
get
not
after
great. They're not great at anything else, but they destroy the quarterback. And
Yeah.
A&M's quarterback is 18 years old.
Yeah. And I think it was coaching malpractice to not be prepared for Reed last week if you're LSU against A&M. But I don't think they were prepared for him. Like, I think Reed was a curveball they were not expecting. Now, again, they should have been prepared for him, but they weren't.
That's an inexcusable loss for LSU.
Yeah. But South Carolina is going to be ready for him, and they've got the ends to contain him. And look, Reed was like really good last week. I'm not wishing it on the kid, but he looks like he weighs like 165 pounds soaking wet. if he gets rocked by one of their ends and they have to go to Wegman, it's ball game.
Dylan Stewart, dude. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? He's going to break that kid in half. And he's a good player. Marcel Reed's a good player. Going to be a great player.
That I'm telling you, that fan base in Columbia, South Carolina, I will give them credit until the day I die. That crowd is always good.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're undefeated or they're 2-8.
You can get the fans back for Beamer with this win.
Oh yeah. So night games there get weird too.
I'm gonna ride Carolina money line with Zach.
I wish I could get a 3, but Godspeed. I think they win outright. I mean, I think y'all are right. I think you're on the right side.
I'm gonna go ahead and unless somebody's gonna speak up, I'm gonna go ahead and take Mississippi State minus 18.
I can't take State against anyone right now.
No, that's a fantastic pick. They're gonna
they're playing UMass. Levy's gonna.
They also played Toledo.
Yeah, I was gonna say we made similar noises against Toledo, and you saw that happened.
Sure, but man, it's only 18, and he's gonna be doing the Martin Van Buren hype train in this.
Who was State's win against?
UMass,
Eastern Kentucky.
Okay, all right, sure, fair, but
EKU and 11.
These are UMass's 2 wins: a 4-point victory at McGurk Alumni Stadium over Central Connecticut, and a 28-point drubbing of Wagner. They do not have an FBS win. I don't. 18.5 is downright disrespectful. State is terrible, but State
is barely an FBS team.
But this is a different level type game.
They quit after last week, man.
Common opponents. UMass also lost to Toledo by only 15.
Oh boy!
See that for a second.
You got out over
that was not a setup. I didn't see it.
Would State win the MAC?
The MAC? No.
Would State win the Pioneer League or whatever that is?
The Patriot League.
Patriot League.
Now, legit question.
I'm making up league now, trying to get them
with North Dakota State.
Dude, North Dakota State would.
And South Dakota State. There's no way they would win that one. I don't think.
No.
They couldn't beat them both.
No. Whichever one of those played Colorado should have beat Colorado.
It's a real travesty that the MAC team that Mississippi State played this year was not Akron. Jomo would have been bouncing over there. Mississippi State's going to score a lot. Jeff Levy's going to wear his Showtime shirt, and
they gotta rack up wins here if they want to get to a bowl. I mean, this is they got to hope on some good GPAs. Yeah, they got to really get. I want to lock in on the number 2. It's under 16.5 because I don't think that UMass scored 3 points against Missouri. They're averaging less than 16. They're averaging less than 16 points a game in FCS. And I get what you're saying. I get where you're thinking here. This is a bad MSU. I just don't think MSU is going to score more than 40. I don't think UMass breaking 20.
Okay.
Austin, what were you going to say?
Well, I'm trying to do the math. State's defense is atrocious.
It's bad.
Atrocious.
It might be one of the worst FBS defenses in the last decade.
I think Eastern Kentucky is only one step below this UMass team. And what did State do? You know what I mean? You got to make hay when the sun's shining. Sun's shining Saturday,
Are they? Wait.
Maybe the last time it shined.
I think in Starkville, though, you take any opportunity to make hay. That's what they do. That's their
Have y'all seen? I mean, we get made fun of with our students and stuff. Have y'all seen State's crowds, man?
Their attendance has been bad, and this weekend there will be 7,000 people there.
Hey,
dude,
it's probably the opening of hunting season.
Hey,
I bet they
for sure.
I bet they. I bet they have 30,000 fans a game. I mean, not enough.
This weekend, dude. No, I bet my life there's not 30,000.
Oh no, there's not gonna be 30 this weekend. This will look like Northwestern State back in 07.
It's gonna be 16 or 18,000 real people at the game.
because
Sun-
UMass is not bringing anybody, so it's going to be all state fans and they're like players' families and maybe some faculty. It's going to be like 12,000 people.
The
They're
sun
going
always
around to the
shines.
residence
Sun always
halls giving
shines in the
away.
junction, brother.
Brother. All right,
They
I
got
want
in the
to
cave.
jump in. I am taking Vandy +7
Oh,
against Auburn.
that's a sucker line, man. That I don't know why that line's so big.
Wait, who are they playing? Auburn?
Pavi's a little banged up.
Auburn.
He's a little
that's
banged
right.
up.
Who is
Yeah,
Pavia?
Yeah. Vandy's QB's a little banged up.
Yeah.
Can he
But-
do it again?
This is
This
just
is
an
Jake.
obligation. I owe it to Pavia to pick them.
Dude, if
Sure.
they beat them again, Hugh Freeze might try to actually kill Diego.
Ode to Diego.
Good luck.
I just have to do this just out of spite. I'm taking Navy -11.
Bounce
I mean,
back.
Who they playing?
They're playing Rice, and it's fucking Rice. They just fired their
And
coach.
Rice just fired their coach.
Coach, a good pick.
Which,
Yeah.
by the way, Mike Bloomgren coached at Delta State the same time that P. Golding was at Delta State. Mike Bloomgren coaches offensive line.
Yeah, but we're super good at that at offensive line, so I don't know that we need really to do anything there.
Yeah, Navy's gonna freaking blow the doors off the Owls.
I want to
really
jump in with
showing
one for
the game.
tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, this game is Thursday night. I'm going over Tulane and Charlotte, 55.5. Number's too short. Tulane piles up explosives. Charlotte's defense is god awful, and they may have found a quarterback. I think Charlotte can get me to 17, 18. Tulane can do the rest.
Tulane quietly 6-2,
Yep.
hanging around.
Did you say that someone in New Orleans is piling up explosives
I did.
to use
Relax.
on the levies?
Relax.
All right. Clemson -10.5 for me.
Below sea level. Let's do it.
Green
Wait, say it
wave.
again,
Just
Ben,
a
I'm
coincidence. Just a coincidence of the green wave.
Did you say 10.5? Clemson 10.5.
Yeah. Clemson -10.5 against Louisville.
That's a good pick. Louisville are some frauds, man.
Yeah,
They are, dude.
Game must,
What?
game must be in Clemson, right?
it's
Yeah.
at Clemson.
Yeah. And Clemson's, it looks like they're in their, I don't want to say Death Star mode, but they're starting to, when they can put it on somebody, they're doing it.
Dude, quietly pretty good. Quietly pretty good offensively too. Like they're not getting any credit, but like the QB suddenly looks like he can play. Like everybody kind of buried him, including me, but all of a sudden, like they're piling up points.
They kind of look like what Ole Miss was supposed to look like
Yeah.
because Clemson's defensive line is scary.
hmm
Um,
But Garrett Riley seems to have figured things out on offense. I kind of forgot he was even there.
well, I mean, everybody just wrote him off after the Georgia game.
Yeah. All right, I got another ACC matchup if we want to stay there. Give me Syracuse at home catching 4 against Virginia Tech. They cannot play worse than they played last week. Syracuse cannot. It's not possible.
Yeah.
They threw 3 pick sixes in the first half. Not the game, the first half. 3 pick sixes. They were DOA by the end of the half. So I expect a bounce back here. Virginia Tech's starting running back is also out, I think.
Uh-oh.
I don't think Virginia Tech is very good. I just don't trust them laying points on the road against a Syracuse team that had prior to last week looked competent, decent, right? Give me the 4 at home.
Yeah, I like that. All right,
You
I'm
know
gonna go. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick. You got a bunch you need to get off your chest.
I do. So I was big last week. Anti service academy. This week I'm going to go anti one of the service academies. And I actually think Army is a very good service academy. I think that they would be more competitive than Navy was, obviously, with Notre Dame. But this game is against a team that they're playing Air Force. They're hosting them. It's at 11 o'clock on the Saturday. And Air Force plays the same offense every week in practice, and they're 22.5-point dogs. I think that's what I got it at here. It's 22.5 points. You're telling me they're going to have to lose by more than 3 scores against an offense that they see regularly. I think there's a reason that people talk about Service Academy's unders. I don't think this is going to be like a 17-13, but I mean, let's say Air Force scores 10 points. I just have to keep Army below like 35 basically to get this. So Air Force plus 22.5.
Yeah.
I like that. Low scoring
the,
game.
What's the rule with service academies? Like the games always go under.
Oh yeah.
Any under basically is like in the last like 50, basically it's like 40-10 or even better than that.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
But now they've adjusted them downward so much that it's probably not going to continue because those unders were when the totals were in like the 40s, like this total.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like the Army Navy game will be like 36. That's a
whole
different ballgame.
They had one I think 30 last year got to 33.5, which is
that's crazy.
This one's back at 42, which tells me they think there's going to be some more points because I think they think that Air Force is going to get trounced. They probably will, but I just don't see them losing by 4 scores.
If they just play keep away, you know what I mean? Just possess the ball. Even if you don't score, just possess the ball. Right. They should cover the number. I got another total if you want to hear.
Go ahead.
We're going back to the well with Iowa overs. Iowa, Wisconsin over 40.5. Again, this is not last year's Iowa. They score, they get into the 20s. Wisconsin has showed a pulse lately. Longo has kind of figured some things out on offense. I'm not expecting it to get into the 60s, but like 21-20 is over.
Yeah,
I don't think that's asking too much.
And Wisconsin put up some points last week against Penn State, had a shot to cover at the end of the game and couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I like it. Speaking of totals, I'm going to go Kentucky, Tennessee over 45.5. If this was in Lexington, I might think about a money line little just seasoning, just because Kroger Field at night can get super just crazy, and not even just the fans, or it's just games are weird with Stoops teams, and they kind of pick their spots where they have 1 or 2, maybe 3 games where they just play really weird. But in Neyland at night, I mean, this just seems like Heupel's going to put up some points. I mean, I don't know if they'll hit the total by themselves, but 45.5 is not a lot.
You just got to hope Kentucky hasn't completely let go of the rope.
Because
you might need them to get 10, 13 here.
My concern is their pace of play.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. If they can do the same game plan against Ole Miss, right? Because I did think about taking Kentucky to cover. I kind of feel like this is a good spot for Tennessee for that offense to get right.
Mm-hmm.
That's what just to finish off on this game. I'm taking UT minus 16. I hate that it's above, like, I think it started off around 14. I hate that I couldn't put it that. I mean, if you did get it at that, I think you're doing well. But this 2 weeks in a row, Stoops has come out and said that they just need more money for their NIL. There's only so many times you can hear your coach say that you suck before you start to believe him. It's just hard to hear. And it kind of seems like, I mean, they've kind of laid down after that Ole Miss game. It's like they went out and they proved actually we're not that bad. We can play. We played with Georgia. We're not as bad as we were against South Carolina, and then they've laid down ever since then. The defense is not doing what it used to do. I don't think that like Tennessee is going to just like come out and wow you offensively, but they kind of figured it out a little bit in the second half by running the ball more against Alabama. And I think I'm thinking they're going to win by 20. Kentucky looks like they've quit. I mean, 48-20 against Florida, that's bad. And then last week, giving up 24 straight to Auburn that has literally no offense.
Going to go ahead and throw out TCU money line plus 130. Playing Baylor. TCU looking kind of solid the last couple weeks. Baylor going the wrong direction again. Dave Aranda, my man. I hope you get in touch with a moving company. It's not looking good down there in Waco.
Let's hope he doesn't end up at state as DC. Just want to
Yeah.
throw that out there now.
Yeah.
Levy might just
Yeah.
hire Riles anyway.
A good recruiter added to that and some energy. All right, I've got one. I'm going to take again, Bert. I'm a believer. +3 at home against Minnesota. I think this is a little bit of an overcorrection
Yes.
following the loss last week by Illinois.
Absolutely.
You give me 3 points at home with Illinois. Minnesota's, I mean, maybe they're surprising, but they've really not beat anybody, and they've got lost. I don't understand this. I think Illinois is the better team. They're getting points at home. But they don't even have to win. Just keep it within a couple. Keep it within a field goal, and the way and with Bielema's style of play, they will. So I like Illinois outright here, but I'll take the 3 free points.
This is the stinkiest line of the week. It reminds me last week of BYU and UCF and how all of y'all told me just bet the better team. And I thought, no, the line smells for a reason. UCF's going to win. And they got absolutely destroyed by BYU. I think you're on the right side here, Ben. I don't understand this number. How are they dogs at home to Minnesota? Like, what has Minnesota done to earn this level of respect?
Yeah, they haven't. They haven't done it. Minnesota got blown out by Iowa. They lost to Michigan, who is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing?
I don't know.
I don't know. There has to be an injury that we don't know about, but I'm still going to take. Maybe Altmaier's out. I don't know. I'm still going to take Illinois at home.
Would that matter? I mean, I hear what you're saying. I'm obviously not telling you you're incorrect. I'm saying, like, y'all, would it matter if Altmaier was out?
I don't know what they got in the back. I mean, I don't know who their backup is, so I can't really answer that.
Yeah.
Altmaier's played pretty well. I mean,
when his style of play, though, is it really that important?
That's my point. It's like kind of a manager back there,
As long as he's got a decent tight end, the dude's going to win games.
Yeah.
They huddle up at Illinois, man. They huddle up. Mm-hmm. They break the huddle. They run the I formation. They have fullbacks at Illinois.
Double tight every formation.
Yeah. I love it. I frankly love it. Because the thing is like, there's no hiding at Illinois. Like you are who you are.
Illinois has lost 2 games this year into teams that are currently ranked
Oregon. Yeah.
1 and 3.
Right.
And they're dogs.
Now, their loss to Penn State was pretty fraudulent. Like, they should have gotten their doors blown off by Penn State, and they covered, I think.
But my point is that they beat the teams they should beat.
Yeah. No, I agree. I
don't really know.
It's a weird number. It's a weird number. It's one that just, I don't know. I think Ben's on the right side, but I got to stay away because the numbers is smelly.
It stinks
out loud for sure.
It stinks.
Speaking of you are who you are and just staying true to yourself, Indiana certified wagon at this point. I'm going over.
Okay.
51.5. I think Jonathan Smith and the Spartans will score a little bit. But, I mean, you look at the points that Indiana's put up. And I know it feels like every week Indiana's due for a stinker and they just don't do it. But
I think this is the one.
You think so?
I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm thinking Michigan State money line. But go ahead.
See, Ben's drunker than I am. What?
That's wild.
What is the weather situation in East Lansing?
Cold.
I mean, we know it's not tropical.
I was going to say they haven't seen the sun all year, so
ever.
Okay.
It's terribly cloudy.
St. Petersburg.
It's gonna be gray and like 48 degrees.
So there's okay. Because I want to take the under, but I don't know, man. Like Indiana this year, 31 points, 77, 42, 52, 42, 41, 56, 31. I mean, Sig and them boys just put up numbers.
He is a great coach. Going to win National Coach of the Year, and they're going to lose in East Lansing Saturday.
Yeah.
Can I want
Saturday
to tell you
we've
what the
got
weather is?
yeah
Go ahead.
57, high of 57, low of 41, partly cloudy. What we got for precip, Nick? Do you see any?
It's
Only
2:30.
10%. Listen,
Yeah.
this game should be on Sunday. The high is 55, the low is 50, and it's 80% chance of rain. Like this game, they missed it by a day.
Yeah, one day.
That would have been perfect. A high of 55 and rain. That
Or
is
not.
East Lansing.
That's an under all day. But I'm just going to stick with them until somebody gets burned, and maybe it'll be me. But
Well, look, Indiana's already burned me once. I was on Nebraska a couple weeks back, and they blew the doors off Nebraska at home.
God,
Ben's on Sparty money line. I want the 7.5 for insurance. I just think it's a lot of points, man, on the road. This is their first real road game, by the way.
I'm gonna play both. I'm gonna play Michigan State plus 7.5 and Michigan State money line.
So they play. They played at Northwestern.
They played at Northwestern, which doesn't count. That was the late game. You know, there were 3,000 people in the stands or whatever, high school stands. That was before Northwestern transitioned to Wrigley. And they played at UCLA, which there probably weren't many more UCLA fans in the stands than there were Northwestern fans in the stands. So this is the first like true road test because like Michigan State will show up for this. And Indiana's QB is still hurt. So even if he plays, he's not going to be 100%. It's like a wrist or hand injury, right? Like that seems pretty important for a quarterback.
actually,
It's a thumb, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right.
I think he had surgery on it.
The Taven Jackson kid's solid, but yeah, road game.
Yeah, he played well last week. I just think this is a different animal on the road. I'm not saying Sparty wins outright. Ben is, but give me the 7.5 for insurance. I think they could be feisty.
You
Look,
get
here's
give me
the
the 8. Shit.
Michigan State. Okay, so they have 4 losses. At Boston College by 4. They lost to Ohio State and Oregon, who are clearly the class of the Big Ten.
Right.
And they lost at a rival by 7.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look more in depth, you know, they beat Iowa by 12.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, they beat Maryland early in the year, and then they've got some non-conference wins. The point is Indiana, who we give them a lot of – now, I agree with you, Zach. They've covered a lot of spreads and Signe's – I mean, we talked about him. I'd love to have him in Oxford. But they're getting a lot of mileage out of that blowout win against Nebraska and a lot of mileage out of I just drew a blank. The 1 second. The blowout win against Nebraska and then the Washington win when Washington's not that great because they hosted game day and they're finally in the limelight. Like, they're going to go to East Lansing and get punched in the mouth. Now, the safe pick is Indiana, sure. I mean, but I think that the wheels finally get a little wobbly. And the reality is they can go to East Lansing and lose and still make the freaking playoff. Because, I mean, they realistically could lose to Michigan State and Ohio State and go 10-2.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm missing what y'all are seeing on Michigan State. You got trounced by Oregon, trounced by Ohio State. Also, Boston College team is kind of crap. They have one decent win on the year.
Hold Ohio State and Oregon games against them. Yeah, that's what we
No, I'm not going to, but it's not like they were competitive. And then they went to a Michigan team that's, I think, kind of terrible and still lost. Like,
It's a rivalry game. Shit was weird. I mean, like,
yeah,
agreed. But my point is that y'all keep having to say, well. And it's like, I'm looking around, like, their best win.
Who's more stable as a program, Indiana or Michigan?
I mean,
ask again in 3 months.
Michigan, right? Okay, and they lost by a touchdown on the road at Michigan. Like,
yeah,
I get what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I just don't necessarily think that Michigan State has shown me anything other than like they snuck by FAU. There's just a lot of losses on there to think they're all going to beat Indiana.
The main pick here is 7.5 or 8. Like, all they have to do is keep it within 8 points, and you win.
No, I think they could do that. I just don't see that. The money line. I guess I kind of think Indiana. I don't know. I kind of think Indiana is going to put it on 10 points.
Did you watch the
Lay-
Indiana
lay
game
the
last
eight,
week?
yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
Weren't they up? Weren't they up 3 touchdowns early?
Yeah, but it was the first time I watched them. They're slow.
And look,
Like-
last week was the first week that it was a little bit bullshit too, a little bit fraudulent of Indiana. Didn't they have like a pick six and like
Yeah.
I think last week was the first week where it looked kind of like, not so
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
they had the pick six on was it the first play of the drive?
First
where
play of the
dude-
game, yeah.
Dude read the screen and just snagged it.
Yeah, and that
I'm
still
not-
Yeah, they
counts.
threw
I'm
for a
not saying
ton of
take it off the
passing yards.
No,
I'm
yeah,
not
they're
saying
still
take it off the
undefeated.
board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 2021, Ole Miss went undefeated no matter what they looked like on the field. I mean, 10-2. You know what I'm saying? Like,
So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like y'all are getting close to talking me into taking the under, but
Right.
I don't know. Michigan
Hey,
State. I'm sticking with it. All right, what Nick? Go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it in the Big Ten here. I'm gonna take Penn State, and I think I'm doing it money line. I had them on my board as plus 3.5, and the more I think about it, I just it's plus 150, and I think I'd rather do that than the 3.5.
It's
Ohio State came out after losing to Oregon, should have been a get right game at home against the team that they were better than, and they really probably should have lost. They're going to Penn State. I get it, it's 11 o'clock. That stinks for Penn State fans. But it's their biggest game of the year at home. I mean, they're going to be there. They're going to have to get up early and get going for that one. Penn State at home, I think the crowd carries them.
Love the pick. If you haven't watched, go watch. Find it on Twitter. Ohio State last week against Nebraska. Ohio State got the absolute Alabama treatment from the refs.
Mhm.
The calls they got in that game were outrageous. Offensive pass interference calls on Nebraska where the guy's not even touching anybody. Like first downs that are not even checked, they're not even reviewed. The guy gets a first down by like 1.5 yards. They don't give him the spot. They have to punt. Crazy stuff. I mean, absolute Alabama treatment last week. If not for that, Ohio State loses outright last week. By the way, they're down 2 starting tackles. I know they're a deep team. They've got talent, but there are not many teams in the country that can sustain those losses. Your 2 starting tackles
Right.
on the road at Penn State.
if
Abdul Carter.
It's a tough ask, man.
if James Franklin's going to do it, it's got to be this year.
Yeah, if not now, when?
And Drew Aller's going to play, right?
I don't know. That's the
I don't
only
know
thing
that he's
keeping me
gonna
off
play.
this.
And this is going to sound crazy, I guess, a little bit, but I don't necessarily think that their backup was terrible.
No, he's an
He did a
experienced
little
guy.
bit different stuff. Yeah.
Mhm.
He had the same number. He looked just like Trace McSorley.
And they get
Yeah.
420 yards last week on Wisconsin on the road.
Mhm.
One thing that concerns me, Austin, is that Ohio State gets the Alabama treatment again.
They could.
Like, I'm not. Is anybody shocked if like some kind of documentary exists in 25 years of like
No.
like a ring that I'm not saying
Right.
fixed these games, but if there was a clear.
Yeah, like text messages between, I don't know, say a guy who's a
Yeah.
financial advisor in Alabama and also happens to be a referee. And by the
Like,
way,
we're
that's
kind of
not fiction.
funneling games to certain outcomes.
Yeah.
I'm with you, but is Penn State, Ohio State the game they want to – like last week was the game they really put it in to make sure
Right.
that Ohio State gets there with one loss. This week's the one like Penn State wins and they're locked in the playoff, you know?
Yeah,
And if
Yeah,
it
but
happens at
Ohio
Penn State,
State
they may
wins
literally
and
murder the
not.
referees. Like they may literally
Ohio
kill the
State needs
referee.
to beat Penn State though,
Man,
because if they
I agree,
lose,
but
that sends them to 2 losses.
it does. But and then they still get Indiana later and they could beat them and all of a sudden back in the playoff because they're Ohio State. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the fix was in, not the fix was in, but the fix could have been in to ensure
Oh, it
they
would
don't lose to
definitely
a
be
bad
more so
team.
against Nebraska, sure.
Yeah, like a bad team, bad Nebraska. That's a bad loss against the teams they should have beaten. Whereas the Penn State game is like, the winners.
You can paper over that. Yeah.
I hate how biased the officiating is.
And
The
it
only-
really changes the game more so than any other sport.
Mhm.
The only thing that gives me pause in this one is Ohio State's defense is just nails.
They're
And
pretty damn good, but
yeah, maybe if Aller doesn't play, I mean, that's dicey. But I mean, Beaver Stadium is going to be rocking. It's not a night game.
It's not a night game. I know. Like,
No.
why is this not a night game?
Because it's big noon kickoff.
I mean, Fox like really sucks for this.
Yeah.
Well, that's their thing is they want the big noon kickoff game.
No, I know, and they want the big
So-
screw fans from having an enjoyable experience.
Seriously, like,
every-
how is this not the whiteout?
Yeah.
I know. Well, they want the whiteout to be at night, and I mean, it just
Right,
sucks. And I know Penn State's as tired of it as we are. Like they've been complaining about because they haven't had their biggest home game. I think I saw some stat over the summer, like their biggest home game for Penn, because they were talking about it was going to happen again this year. Biggest home game for Penn State, like 14 of the last 15 years, the top ranked team they played at not night. It just never happens for them at home.
But
Sounds
Happening
familiar.
again.
yeah.
All right, what can we get in the Georgia Florida game?
Georgia Florida game, which will move to Atlanta. And Nick, was it 2026?
Is that right?
Yeah,
They're
it's going for 2 years. Yeah, Atlanta
They're doing
and Jacksonville.
construction on the Jag Stadium.
It's like that meme, like draw 25 or play a home game, play a campus site
All right.
game, and then they have 1,000 cards.
I am going to do something I never do, and I'm going to bet a total, and I'm going to go. Let's see what the number I can get is.
The total for
under 52.5.
yeah.
Georgia
Under 52.5.
under 52.5.
I almost bet Florida in this game, man.
Well, okay, so everything about my heart says take Florida plus 16.5. And then I think maybe this is Alabama, Missouri of last week, and Georgia wins 34-3 and suffocates Florida and ends Billy Napier's 10 years as coach. For all intents and purposes. So, but I'm going to go off the cuff here, and I'm just going to take under 52.5 and say that Florida is average on offense. They've been playing better, but they blew out a bad Kentucky team. And Georgia is really good on defense, but they're not good on offense either. They lost their weapons from last year. That's becoming more and more clear. Carson Beck is a good player, but is anybody really talking about Carson Beck? Now, last year, it was, well, he's got 31 touchdowns and no picks. Like, he's the best decision maker of all time. He's really not even on anybody's radar anymore. McConkey's gone. Bowers is gone. I like the under here, and I don't even know the weather, but this feels like both teams are in the low 20s, or maybe it's even Georgia like 25-15, something like that. And I also think Kirby has an incentive of making sure they win, but keeping the game close so he doesn't lose his team for next week. Not lose them, but he could just get after them all week in practice for the Ole Miss game.
Yeah, I can't do money line here. I almost want to wish cast it, but that might be worse for Ole Miss fans. Which I don't know.
Yeah.
Georgia would have 2 losses,
Yeah.
and that
No,
would be
dog. We don't need to play Georgia with 2 losses.
yeah. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
No,
Yeah.
dog.
But I'm going to take.
I would love to
Florida.
give them their 3rd loss, but
I'm gonna-
they would be the adrenaline coming from that locker room. They would be on edge.
Yep.
You don't talk about fights before the game kickoff.
Yeah. No, he would have them
Also
convinced,
be-
and it would be true that it's basically a playoff game. It's
It
basically
would be just like Bama LSU this year. It would
an
be
elimination game. Exactly. Yep.
Let's see. Rushing stats. Fuck.
All right, I got one. Off the top of your head, who is first in the Mountain West?
It's not
who's
Boise.
in the Mountain West.
Wait,
Also a good question.
it's not Boise State.
How is it not Boise?
It has to.
No, it's
like
Boise.
There's a tie.
It's got to be somebody else that's the same amount of wins, is what I'm saying.
Like Fresno.
Oh, is it San Diego State?
It's Colorado State, and that's who we're taking. Colorado State's
Oh,
laying 1.5 at Nevada. This is the second worst line of the week. How
Nevada sucks.
terrible! Colorado State's 3-0 in conference. They're actually not
How
terrible.
is this the line?
Yeah,
I'm on
lay
it.
the
What's
1.5 with Colorado State.
Nevada is 3-6.
Yeah,
Nevada went last week and got spanked at Hawaii.
yeah. They
Good
have
God.
travel.
Ooh,
They're
and
coming.
the travel thing.
Exactly.
Ooh, I'll ride this. I'm on Colorado State too. Then
Man,
Plus-
we're taking a triple lock.
If y'all need another reason, Nevada had no shit. Like 7 guys go out with injuries last week against Hawaii. I think some of them are going to be back. But you talk about like not being deep. What do you think Nevada's depth is like? Like, what do you think their second string players are like?
Northeast Mississippi Community College.
Exactly. Give me the Rams. I think this line's absurd.
That is. Not as absurd as taking Florida plus 16.5. Which I'm going to do.
You in?
Yeah, I'm doing it.
So no money line?
No money line, but I'm going to take the Gators to cover. I think it's going to be impossible for Kirby to keep them locked in on Florida with Ole Miss looming. The dudes are human. Georgia knows that it's the better football team. I think it's going to be hard to keep them dialed in for 4 quarters. I think Lagway might hit a couple deep shots.
Here's
them in
something
it.
though. They beat us so bad last year. Are they human enough to be like, man,
This team ain't shit. Yeah.
Oh, Kirby's
And-
going to be doing they're disrespecting us thing all week for Ole Miss.
Yeah. By having the audacity to put on pads against them. Yeah.
And Kiffin's going to eat it up and is going to do all kinds of Twitter shit.
I mean, that one
Yeah,
player
dude.
said that he had a hurt left hand. That's offensive, though. You ain't going to act like you're faking injuries.
We came to eat.
I want you to eat. I want you to eat. You and your whole network. If you're Ole Miss fan, if you're an Ole Miss fan, you don't want Kiffin on Twitter next week.
No, please God.
You want him dialed.
All right. I think I'm tapped except for a couple money lines.
You only got 3, don't you?
No, surely I got more than that.
We've got you as Iowa, Wisconsin.
40, Michigan State +8, and Colorado State -1.5 is what we have you at.
You have Tulane Charlotte over
Oh, that's what.
Oh, need that one. Yeah,
What was that number?
55.5.
Okay.
that's right.
Is that
I forgot
it?
about that.
I don't really like actually, I've got a lot of numbers in pocket from like early in the week. Like I've got South Carolina 3.5. I've got Washington at 3. All those numbers are gone now.
Yeah.
I had UCLA 7.5 at Nebraska. That's 6.5 now. I got
May they rest in peace.
How has nobody touched Pitt and Smooth?
quarterback uncertainty there, right? Both of them
Yeah.
have quarterback injuries.
Yeah, and
No,
SMU's
thanks for that one.
SMU's backup is the former starter.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
7.5 is a little rich, man. Pitt's played well.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah, and they got that Narduzzi defense.
Hmm.
The like 2 under some defense, whatever he does, it's wild. But
Look,
Feels
I
like-
just-
Do you realize that SMU turned the ball over 6 times last week and won the game?
Okay, I'm gonna have to take Pitt here. I didn't. I'm clearly asleep on the clock. Pitt +8 at SMU. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
SMU's
too
good.
rich.
But
So,
they
I can get
squeaked
I can get you
by
7.5.
Nevada. They squeaked by Duke. They squeaked by Louisville. They squeaked by we can't. They lost to BYU. I mean, yeah, they blew out Houston Christian. Sure, that's like Houston Christian is like one of those teams that's like, who's the weirdest team your school's ever played? And it's like Rainbow Cleaners, you know?
Yeah, like, no,
or
like they have a
whatever.
Walgreens that looks into the stadium. Like one corner in the field is a Walgreens.
Ben,
It's like when like State played,
Toledo.
Whitman County Rebels or whatever.
Ben, mount up. I'm riding with you. Pitt money line plus 250.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good money line. And Pitt's undefeated. It's
People
crazy.
forget.
Crazy line.
People forget.
People do actually forget that part.
Do you have any
Yeah.
money lines, Austin?
No, but I've got some on deck if y'all are ready.
Go ahead.
Let me finish my last number here.
Yeah,
This
damn it,
is this is my y'all want spreads. And last week there were two people in members of this team that were unbeaten when it comes to
here we
spreads. I'd be Ben and myself. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this
I
out
win
there.
this thing every year.
That is true. I actually think I can't
No, I don't. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Duke is plus 20 against the Miami Hurricanes. I did it last week. I went with Florida State, and I thought, how bad can they be? And I was wrong. But Duke, just looking at their schedule, man, I mean, they lost last week to SMU. They were a 2-point conversion away. It was a terrible play, by the way. But they were a 2-point conversion away from beating SMU. They beat Florida State the week before. They lost by 10 points and only gave up 24 to Georgia Tech. And then before that, they were 5-0. Like they started the season 5-0. I just don't foresee that this Duke team can lose by 3 scores to Miami. Now, that said, looking at the Miami line, they do seem to have figured it out a little bit because they beat a pretty decent Louisville team after struggling consecutive weeks with Virginia Tech and Cal. But I mean, did they figure it out or did they play Florida State? And I think that, it could be either or. It's an 11 a.m. game. How many fans are going to be at Hard Rock Stadium at 11 o'clock? I'm sure it's going to still be 85 degrees, about 35,000 there to play Duke. They're not coming out to see Duke play, and they got to beat them by 3 scores, all right? Duke plus 20.
And Manny Diaz revenge angle.
That's true. The defense, I just don't see, unless looking at Miami, who's given up 14, 45, 38, 34 in their last 5 games, unless that just defense got a lot better, I don't think they're going to be able to keep Duke from just not scoring. Duke's going to have some first downs. They're going to shorten the game. That's what they do. And the Duke defense is good. I forget the guy's name, but when I watched him play against Florida State, he was after the quarterback every single play. And now Cam Ward may tear him apart, but I don't foresee it. Just three touchdowns is too big.
And every year there's a team who is the Breaking Bad mean, like they can't keep getting away with this, and yet they do week in and week out. Duke is that team this year where they just keep luck boxing their way into turnovers and fumble luck and missed field goals and all that shit. But they do it every week. Like every week they do it. I think they're going to hang tough here. I think they're going to play for Manny, man. Manny is going to want this one more than he wants any game this year. That doesn't make the talent equal or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, they're going to be ready for Miami. I'm not saying they win, but like it wouldn't surprise me if it's like a 13-point game in the 4th.
No, and I mean they almost had 400 yards last week against SMU. They're not like incompetent on offense.
No, they got a Texas transfer at quarterback. I mean, like they've got some pieces. They're not like Duke of the mid '90s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Is that it? We got everything?
All I got. I'm tapped out.
Ready for
I
money
have
lines?
one money line. I don't have any other. I mean, if you're going to get weird on a money line, I guess you could do Florida. I'm not doing that.
I thought about it.
Let's see if I've got any. I had one other weird money line that you could play. Texas Tech at Iowa State money line. That's pretty much it. I mean, I wouldn't do it.
I think Texas Tech's quarterback's hurt.
To put Mississippi State's to put their game in perspective, their point spread is with UMass is the same that ours was with Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Ooh. 2 points left.
Actually, yeah, we were larger. We were bigger favorites against Oklahoma than they are.
I mean, that's man. Unfortunately, for them in the NIL era, if you've got money, You can get good pretty quick. You can at least get some good top end players.
Mm.
Unfortunately, they've been so anti-paying players so much that they even ruined a kid's life snitching on Ole Miss that they may never buy into that.
Yeah. I mean, hell,
Shots fired.
the
But
book.
just thinking, now I'll get accused of being obsessed with them.
I mean, the book on them for years before NIL was just not cash. The checks weren't cashing in like year 2 or 3.
I thought you meant the literal book, the Bim Bam, the greatest sports controversy in history or whatever the subtitle was. You remember that book?
Yeah.
Oh God.
You know, one of the defensive linemen, they've had a few they've signed in the past 10 years that were 5 stars, but one of them, as soon as he got there, he wasn't getting paid like he was promised.
Yep.
All right. Week 10, we got Iowa, Wisconsin over 40.5, Michigan State +8, Colorado State -1.5, Tulane, Charlotte over 55.5, Vandy +7, Clemson -10.5, Illinois +3, Michigan State +8, Florida, Georgia under 52.5, Colorado State -1.5, Pitt +7.5, Duke +20, Air Force +22.5, Tennessee -16, Colorado State -1.5. I'm repeating that one. I don't know why. Ole Miss, Arkansas under 53.5. Mississippi State, UMass under 60.5. Memphis -7. Mississippi State -18. Navy -11. Kentucky, Tennessee over 45.5. Indiana, Michigan State over 51.5. Florida +16.5. And then money lines, we've got Michigan State, Penn State, Pitt, South Carolina, and TCU.
Austin, do you have any money lines?
Yeah, I got 2 to add. Ready?
All right.
Tulsa at UAB. These teams are basically mirror images. There shouldn't even be a favorite here. So give me Tulsa money line of +129. And the big one, Houston +402 against K-State. K-State coming off a rivalry game against Kansas. They had to claw and scrap to get the W. They go on the road, sleepy spot against Houston, who is suddenly not playing bad football. Would it shock you at all for Houston to win this game? It would not. For me, I think +402 implied probability there is just a little too low. So give me the Cougars at home.
Willie Fritz.
Well, one last thing before we go. Michigan's +550 home to Oregon. I am not locking that in. If you wanted to put half a unit, a quarter of a unit, why not?
Oregon is Oregon has not been impressive for much of the year. Now, I know they beat Ohio State and they blew the doors off Illinois. Like
Michigan,
I feel like
I don't
Oregon's
think Michigan's
bounced
winning. I wouldn't bet it. But if
Yeah.
you need it, if you're like, man, I'm just itching for something, I've got to.
if you want to put half a
that's
unit
what
on Michigan, Venmo me half a unit.
I can't get the
That's
Texas
probably
game out
agree.
of my head. The Texas Michigan game, like why doesn't it go exactly like that? Like
That's fair.
That's what I'm picturing. I would love for Michigan to pull it off. That'd be cool.
I don't know that Oregon's defense is as good as Texas's.
yeah, probably not.
But no, I'm with you. At the same time, it is, it's in Michigan. It's at home.
What time are they
11:30
kicking?
start,
2:30.
You know, Michigan lost the quarterback this week too.
2:30.
Jack
Hey,
total
that's
like
good.
retired from football. Like he hung
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I saw that. Did y'all see
Yeah,
the?
That's kind of a low point, right?
Did y'all see the tweet this week about our scheduling? The difference between home and away. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Did we talk about this? Like
Not
kick times. We've not played a morning away game since Lane Kiffin's been at Ole Miss.
I know.
People
And we
even-
got to this year, but like
2018.
that's since 2018. I thinking back on it, like, yeah, I can't remember once because we don't ever play one. It never happens. We never have to get rolling early on.
You
a
play
road game.
4 away games a year. So 21, 22, 23, that's 12 away SEC games. And then in 20, what did we play? 5 away
That's
SEC
5.
games? So
Mhm.
Now it's
17. And this year, we're going to have 2 morning kicks.
So it'll
So
be
that would
19.
2 out of 21. Is that right?
No, you add
Morning.
2019 too. So 2 out of 25.
Well, I'm talking about just under Lane Kiffin. He wasn't here.
Oh yeah.
So 2 out of 21. since Lane Kiffin has been here have been morning road
Mhm.
games. And so that means 19 of 21 started at 2:30 or later. And I think over 10 of those, maybe even more like 12 were at night.
I think
Meanwhile,
it's 12-7. Yeah.
I can remember our night kicks. A&M, LSU last year,
Vandy.
Vandy
Two of them were
twice.
Vandy, and one of them was stayed on Egg Bowl. I mean, on Thanksgiving. That
Yeah.
Mhm.
yes, it's a night game, but it was the only game that day.
Yeah, it's a night game 4 days after we went to Arkansas.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then two were Vandy, and one was the Egg Bowl. So
We may have the
out of
worst
6 total.
scheduling. I would have to look. I don't have time or energy to look for everybody else's, how it's different, but it has to be the worst.
Somebody,
Yeah.
I don't recall which message board it was. Somebody on one of the boards went through every single team. You can see it, and I think Tennessee maybe kind of gets a little bit of the shaft like we do, but no one gets the road away split nearly as bad. Like Tennessee has also a lot of morning games, which by the way starts at noon local time, but
Mhm.
the home away split for us is like 8 games different, and no one else was over like 5.
Nick, I'm glad that you brought that game up because I'm going to add Oregon minus 14.5.
I think
The
that's fine.
counter to it is the SEC gave us Vandy as a permanent opponent. That if they weren't our permanent opponent, then let's say those 2 night games were Tennessee instead. But you'd rather have Vandy as the permanent opponent than,
Yeah. Yeah, it's at this point it's a joke.
The counter to the counter, I think, because I saw a lot of responses from other fan bases on Twitter, like, "Well, be a good program and you'll get primetime games." And I'm like, we're the third winningest program, right? Since Kiffin has
this
been here.
decade,
In the last 3-4 years, yeah.
So like,
since 2020.
That's
so if the standard is be better than Alabama and Georgia to get night games, then why does LSU get night games?
Yeah. So yeah, someone was like, just beat Kentucky. And I'm like, dude, if you thought we were getting the night game over Alabama LSU, I got
Was it gonna happen?
to tell you in Tallahassee.
Just be perfect, and then you might.
Also it covers.
Ole Miss hosted Oklahoma at 11, and they put Missouri, Alabama at 2:30. I can't.
Yep.
Didn't that game only have like 700,000 more people watch it at 2:30 on ABC?
And we were opposite Ohio State, same kick time.
The thing that's crazy about it, because Austin brought that up, it covers every base. Ole Miss has had shitty start times when it was probation, when it was Matt Luke, and then early in Kiffin's tenure. But then Kiffin wins 10 games. Kiffin wins 11 games. 9 wins at one point. It's like, okay, now you're winning and you're still not getting them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like, well, Ole Miss has just been dog shit for 5 years. No, like Ole Miss is winning a lot of football games and is an actual.
Unfortunately, we're just going to have to get used to playing them in the morning. We're never going to get out of that spot. That slide ever.
Yeah. So,
it sucks because it's a size of the fan base thing, I think. And now we added, I think Oklahoma's going to get the morning shaft like us, though. But we added 2 large brands in Texas and Oklahoma. So it's 2 more people, team schools we have to compete with for night kicks.
I think Kiffin, I know, again, people accused him of whining, whatever, but I think he approached it in the right way by pointing out the competitive advantage that it confers on the home team playing at night. Like, it is an advantage for the home team to get that game. And so if you don't get any of those games in your stadium, you truly are at a competitive disadvantage. It's just a fact.
It needs to be where it's predetermined at the beginning of the season, like everybody has the same number. Like if you have 4 games, 4 home games, you have 1 morning, 1 2:30, 1 6, 1 8,
and 1 flex. Or I was gonna say 1 flex, like 1 1 1, and then let the other one be a rotating. But you should have 1 of each.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Either way.
This is how it should be.
But
sorry, LSU.
What you would run into even with if you flexed everybody is Ole Miss, or are we flexing all 3 times or just 2:30 at night?
Well, yeah,
fair. Because if you flex all 3, then Ole Miss sorry, Zach, I don't mean to keep interrupting you. Ole Miss gets 2 11s every time, and LSU gets 2 7 o'clocks every time, and you're in the same damn place.
Yeah.
But I agree, but at least you're closer, you know?
Yeah. My thing is, like, I know everybody gets tired of Kiffin complaining about crowds and whatever. And for the 9 millionth time, he's doing it because Nick Saban did it. But, like, I get his gripes with this because, fans want to go to night games. So, like,
Fans just really don't want to go to 11s. Like,
he's never going to complain about an 11 a.m. Like, truly complain about 11 a.m. Everybody's on the same page about that, man.
Yeah.
When the players, they don't want to get up at 6 o'clock.
But, like, I get it, though, because he's almost, coaches speak through the media to players. Like, he's speaking through the media to fans where he's like, I'm with you. Like, we want night games because we know y'all want night games. So, like, that's validated because it hurts your program when you're trying to build and you can't get night games. Like, so I get that gripe. I mean, that sucks when you're a program like this that's relevant now and winning a lot. You deserve more night games.
It's also weird that if you suck bad enough, you're back at night.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like State's always getting these 3:30 kicks on SEC Network.
Yeah.
So, like, you can't be the 4th best team in the league.
Well, that's what we got with Vandy. Vandy sucked so bad they pulled us down to the 6:45 start on SEC Network.
That's exactly why we kicked at night. It went on ESPN.
You're right. And go look at Kentucky. I think Kentucky played – I think they've had 6 games at night thus far in their season as they are soaking up that 6:45 SEC Network start.
Yeah.
Crushing that 6:45.
They're getting that Tom Hart squad, baby.
Yeah.
Talking about what food they're eating on the sideline.
Tom Hart just has a list of all the buzzwords of each college town that he just rattles off.
Snoop.
Dixon Street.
Yeah. he's doing the for Ole Miss,
Funky.
Oh, they're swarming to the ball like it's a chicken on a stick from Chevron. Hokey ass shit like that.
What does he do for State?
By the way, Tom, I'm joking. Have y'all ever seen Tom Hart in person? He's big.
He's a monster.
He's huge.
Yeah.
Nick, you brought up Kentucky. I feel like over the years, Kentucky has had a lot of night games at home.
They do. It's because
– but it's been a mix of, like, they're mediocre or, like, when they're kind of good, they get night games.
Like 11 is – yeah, go ahead.
They're never good enough to get the 2:30 game. And when they play like Georgia, for example, like they did early in the year when we were at Wake Forest, they were just good enough to get the ABC game at 9, right? They were the second best game of the week when they were playing Georgia. So they're never good enough for the 2:30, or they're so bad that they're relegated to like 5th selection, the SEC Network night game. It happens. And that place, they're getting like their money's worth out of those lights.
So like I'm in the minority here probably, but I'm like old man weird. 2:30 is my preferred kick because you can tailgate before and after, or before or after. And when the 2:30 is over, I can still go home. You can have dinner. It's like normal bedtime type scenario stuff. You can watch other games once you're out of the stadium. You can watch other games before kick. I mean, Alabama's played how many 2:30 kicks over the last 10 years? Every game.
Also, I will argue this. There is nothing better than celebrating a 2:30 kick win.
And having like your night game sort of watch,
For all the reasons Ben just said.
Our favorite memory is like the Alabama 14 game, man.
Yeah. To me, it's like night game. 2:30 is pretty close, and 11 is just like so far below that it just outweighs. It can outweigh every good other home game you have having at 11 o'clock. Like the best 11 o'clock, I mean, assuming you win, is still like worse than your worst win at night. Or
again, it needs to be like split up evenly. 1-1-1 flex, 1-1-1-1. However you do it, they've all got to be different times. I know we got to go to bed.
Yeah,
late, but
speaking of 11 o'clock.
Good pod. It's 11:11. Make a wish.
All right. That'll do it Week 10 edition. Oh, well, see you, man. Hit that line. Appreciate College Corner. Appreciate Homefield Apparel. Rowbag, Drew Moak, USA Benefits Group, everybody, all the sponsors that make it possible. We'll be back next week for week 11. Oh, he's back. We'll have we'll have a bit of a shuffled up schedule next week, but we'll still have a show for you. But Ole Miss, Arkansas, 11 a.m. this weekend. It's ESPN, right? Yeah. Right? Nick's on mute.
You're on mute, dude.
I don't actually know if it's at ABC or ESPN.
I think it's ESPN because Mark Jones is ESPN, correct?
Oh, God.
Yeah, you're right.
We're not on ABC.
Yeah, it is ESPN, yes.
Yeah.
All right, ESPN, 11 a.m. Central Time, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Plenty of coverage leading up and following. More podcasts this week. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate the Legal Gambling Council. As always, I didn't brag about it earlier, but if you're keeping score at home, we are 126 and 87 against the spread this year, up 15.07 units. So pretty good. So for Austin, for Ben, for Nick, I'm Zach. This has been Hit That Line. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We out of here.